Hi all, welcome to the Jolly GM RPG blog. What I'm doing today is I wanted just to go over some of the changes to my Conan theme for MoreCore. Simply because MoreCore is a very well-written, fan-made rule set for Fantasy Grounds, and it's very adaptable and it can do a lot of different things. I created a theme to use for Conan 2D20, but I wanted to, there's a couple of changes, and I originally started typing it up, and I'm not really in the mood to do it, so I figured I would talk about it, and I'll show you some of the features, just so it makes things a little easier. For me, I wanted it so when a person loads up the theme, they could just get right into, preparing their character or playing or whatever, and not have to manually make changes to the game, because I'm not that much of a programmer or a coder or whatever you want to call it. So there's a couple of changes I don't have the skill yet to make do. So I had to come up with workarounds. So one of the things I just wanted to mention to everyone is the options up here. This area up here. Options, you can go in here and you can make numerous different changes to the decals, which is the main picture here on the front of the page. You can set different functions. So one of the things I want everyone to be aware of is that you can add or remove columns from the combat tracker, and to do that you go into options, you scroll down, and you can change the colors and make certain columns clear, visible or not visible. And it's all up to you. I only usually, on the combat tracker, I only usually keep 3 columns, and that's the armor, vigor, and wounds. Everything else I don't put on the tracker. But that's just me. Okay, one of the first things I want to show is the character sheets. So here is the default character sheet. If you were to actually create a character sheet, I got it set up so the changes that with integrating my workarounds are in it, so you don't have to worry about changing fields too much. But anyway, you just open up and go to create a new character sheet, and open it up, and bang, here it is. And one of the things I want to make mention is the first thing up here on the top. This should say Fortune. I don't have that changed yet. Eventually I'll have that changed, but you can just click on any of these fields and change it like that. You can type in your number. I got it set for mouse wheel, so I can mouse wheel up and down. And that's where I keep track of my fortune points. So if a person wants to spend a fortune, all they got to do is move their mouse up on top, double click, and down here in the chat window, it comes up and it says is using a fortune. So I can say Richter, for example. I can double click again. Richter is using a fortune point. So any of the players want to spend a fortune, they can double click. So here you got your race, gender, age, height, and weight area. You just put in some of your data. Now, first of all, this tab, MoreCore, is essentially the extension itself. Like, it could do, you got your main abilities and inventory and notes, but I wanted to set it up. I wanted to make use of one page. I prefer all my data being on one page with minimum amount of having to go to different tabs. And this character sheet can actually do it very well. The guys who developed this are really good with it. So you can pretty much put everything you need to know about your character sheet or about your character onto the first page, except for inventory. But that's not that important. But it's pretty cool. You can put all your skills and stuff there. The attack section here is where you would use your dice strings. And the dice strings are pretty simple. What I do, my way of doing things is I just type in what the weapon is and say, for example, their stats. Let me bring up an example here. I'll go to one of the pre-gens here, and we'll go to Adelstan. And if you look on Adelstan's in the attack section, I typed all this stuff in here. He's using the broadsword. It has a reach of 2. It's on balance. 7 dice of damage and parry. but that's just how I word it. And over here I got 7d6, and that is the string that tells you what to use. And all it does, it looks through the string, and it says is looking for the code, which is 7d6. Anything with a number D and another number, that's the code. And you always end it with a colon right here. So anyway, if you want to roll the damage, you can click on it, and so you right click on it, or sorry, left click on it, and you can bring it over to here. If you want to add extra dice while you're still dragging it, you can then right click, and you can add on as many extra dice as you want. And when I go to roll it, it comes up right here. It says Adelstan broadsword, and here's your data. So this is for me. It gives me reference of what weapon the person is using, and I can just go through it and double check everything. So you can come up with your own codes. This is just how I've numbered them because I'm like that. So I just want to make everything aware about that. The bottom section, which originally is a spell section, a spell list, but I wanted a way for players to be able to quickly use Doom and indicate that they're using Doom or Momentum. So I moved a couple of things around. And so the first counter here, the first box, I just put at an insanely high number. I got 976 there. And this way, if a person wants to say they're using Doom and to keep track of it, all they got to do is double click on it, and it comes up. And it says Adelstan is using a Doom. And it seems pretty simple there. And this number, obviously you can update this number as much as you want to keep it full. Momentum. The other one is you need to be able to track of a person's momentum before it goes into the pool. So what I've done here is I use the second column here as momentum. So if they get 3 extra momentum, I just tell them to put it in. And then at the end of the round, or as they spend it, they can double click, and it says that they're using momentum. And I think that's pretty cool. I left these two I just renamed the third and fourth column to spell 1 and spell 2, because originally it went from spell 1 to 5 right across. But I just changed those there in case someone wants to put some quick spells up there. That's up to them. The last column here is trauma. Now, trauma by rights should be over here in the combat section, and I'll go into that very shortly. But unfortunately, the sixth column right here for the combat tracker is actually your initiative order. So I'll give you the example here now. I'll bring up the combat tracker, and I'll remove these guys. And one of the things that was happening, and it didn't take me very long to realize that it was very annoying, was I'll add Adelstan there, and I'll add a couple of NPCs. So I just dragged everything over, and this is the 6th column right here. All right, I got one of the columns turned off right now, so you're only seeing 5. But this number here is the initiative order. So the higher the number, the closer to the top. But let's take Adelstan. This section right here, if I delete it, shows a 0. But if I change this to a 15, if you look over here, now Adelstan is on the top. And what was happening is as people were changing their vigor numbers, it was moving their characters over here all over the place. So I don't have the coding yet. I haven't figured out how to turn off this auto adjust yet. So for now, unfortunately, what I got done, I just had the title written over top of it saying not to use. So just to stop it. Now you'll notice that the NPCs, when you drag them over, they are automatically assigned the number. So what I do there, when I bring them over before the combat starts, I go to menu right here, click on that, and then I say turn order, and I'll turn it off or reset it, and that changes everything to 0. And what I've been doing, and again, it's just a workaround. Eventually, I'll have it. I'll try to figure it out. Is as a person makes I'll go to their a status, their friend status, or their category if they're hostile or not. And I'll change it all to one color. All you gotta do is click on it and it changes. So what I've been doing is I'll change it all of them to one color, and as they take their turn, I'll just click on that. And so Addlestan does his turn, I'll click it, and then if the bear number 1 goes, I'll click it again, and I'll make it all the same color. So once everyone's the same color, that means that everyone's taking their turn, and that's how I've been keeping track of it. I know it's a little bit of a workaround, but you know it does work, and it's pretty easy to follow. So that's that. So just a reminder, this bottom field right here will affect the numbers in this column here. So I tell people not to use it, and so forth. So these little icons here represent that they're linked to the field. See these little paper clips? That means they're linked. So obviously you got your vigor, which is here, armor is here, and then your wounds is there. So I usually just keep the first 3 columns up. Over here in the combat field itself, I get the person to type in their number here, and that's what their normal number is. And as it changes and adjusts, I can just wheel, or they can just wheel up and down and change it. So his vigor was 13, now it's down to 6. And you can see over here it's automatically adjusted. See, I can wheel up and down and it will change. And to change these fields, all you gotta do is go in, double click on it, and it puts the cursor there, and you can add whatever you want. So, down below here in the character sheet itself, you have your attributes. And the attributes, I just got them listed here, and it handles 7 fields very well. So it's pretty good. And you can right click on here, and you can tell it to be a dice string. I know that the attributes aren't really a dice string. You don't actually roll your raw attribute. There's always a skill based on it. But the code that you want to put in is the dice string is /Conan 2d20 times or x10 y0, and the first number right here is the skill number, and the second number here is your focus number. And what I've done, I'll go right to a skill, and I'll use a skill instead. We'll use melee. So whatever I type up here in this column is what I'll show in the chat bar. So to make it easy for people to know what their skills are, I just got them to type in the melee, their skill number, and the focus number. And then down below, I've added the 2d20, x11, y1. So if I was to roll that now, it comes up and it'll calculate everything for me based on the code. So first of all, you'll just see what I typed in here. So then what I type in here doesn't do anything at all with this number of successes or whatever. I've done that myself. So it's just there for reference. So here down below, I got a 4 and a 1. It automatically counts the 1 as two successes, and the 4 is obviously below 11, so that's a 3rd success. So that's pretty cool. So the next option is if you want to add extra dice. Now, to add extra dice to a skill roll, the only way you can do it, because you can't click and drag these numbers. The only things that you can click and drag are the dice strings up above. You can't do it here. Again, with the attacks and with these here, I can drag it and I can right click and it'll add a d6 for me. But again, I can't do that for your skills or your attributes. So what we've got done is the developers made it so if I want to add 3 dice or 2 dice or whatever, I can go down to the modifier bar here and I can control wheel up and down. Or sorry, no, you gotta type it in here. So I can type in 3. So if I go back up to melee now, what it does, it rolls whatever my string is and adds 3 extra d20 to it. So I will go with my melee roll. First of all, I'll clear this over here. So I'm going to roll my melee roll. I'll roll it. And it tells me that it's melee 11, focus 1, plus 3. So I added 3 extra dice. And you can see down below here now, I've got all these extra dice here now. One of the things that you can also do is you can go up to your modifiers. And what this does here, you can click on these modifiers, and it would automatically add it down below, down here. You don't have to type anything in. But I like using this because whatever I got typed in up here, it'll show on the chat bar. So if I say I'm going to do a 1-point bonus spend. Actually, no, I'm going to say I'm going to spend, for example, the scenario is I'm spending 2 momentum and 1 doom. So I'm going to click on momentum once, and down here in the modifier it says +1. If I press it again, it'll come up and say +2. Now these little dots represent how many modifiers you have added to it. And I'm going to say, so I spent, and to get rid of it, all you got to do is click on the little dot and it goes away. So I'm spending 2 momentum, so +1, +2, and I'll go up and I'll hit the doom spend and I'll press that there. So that'll add that 3 particular dice to the roll. So I'm going to go back to my melee. I'm going to roll my melee. And this is what I like. Now it tells me melee 11, focus 1. But it tells me what I've spent and what I've added to it. So it says momentum spend +1, momentum spend +1, plus a doom spend +1. So it helps everyone just keep track of things a little better. You can say +3 if you wanted to, roll the dice. And it could be like adds 3 dice again, and it tells you 3 bonus spend. I did that just so you're just spending 3. So what I've been getting people to do is to say that they're going to spend, if they're going to spend momentum. Let's say this guy up here, he spends his 1 momentum, and then he spends 2 doom. So I get the double click there, and then he can add his 3 up here. And I'll roll the dice again. And there you go. Now, keeping track of the bonus or of the doom pit and the doom pile. Originally, you know, there's nothing better than sitting at a table and playing this game and then seeing. I have this brass bowl that I have that all my tokens go into, and seeing that thing pile up with tokens is pretty daunting to the players and to the GM itself. But unfortunately, I couldn't really quite capture that feeling with Fantasy Grounds. I had a couple of graphics that I put in, and people would drag and drop tokens over there, but it was kind of cumbersome, and it slowed the game down on Fantasy Grounds. So what I had done here is I created a image, and this image is this will be available on a mod, just so it's easy to. It won't come with the actual theme, so this will be a separate download. Unfortunately, I don't know how to add it in yet. I'm going to have it so it all shows up at once, but I don't have it done yet. Anyway, so what I've got is this is how I keep track of it. I move to Doom, and I can keep track of the Doom here as much as I want, and then I'll just move these tokens here back and forth as the momentum goes up and down for the pool. So I just wanted to show that. So if the guys, way I'm telling the guys, if I don't see the counters come up here, I don't adjust it here. So, you know, again, that's just me. Other people may come up with other ways, but that's how I keep track of the Doom. And this Doom picture will be available on a separate, what's called a module. And the module is extra data that can be used with a rule set. So basically that's it. You still have all these other pages that you can use. You can right click here and you can use stuff from here as well. You can add stuff. You can say this is for, I don't know, your talents if you wanted to, and then you can hit the plus sign here and you can add in whatever you want. And you can add in your dice. You can say this is a 2D, 2D. Just drag up your dice. Keep track of it there. But I wanted to try to keep everything on one page so it's considerably quicker to track and follow. If you go back to the MoreCore page, again, you can see all the skills I got here. And the way I got it listed, the agility and your acrobats and all, the attribute that is linked to and the skill, and then the your skill number plus your focus. But what's really cool is down here on the second row, you see these 3 icons. This is another great feature done by the guys who developed MoreCore. I gotta say, hats off to them, because they made it very easy to take any role-playing game that you want, come in, load Fantasy Grounds, and use this rule set, and you can play any game you want. But what he had done, or what they had done, is you can click on these icons and it actually flips the pages over. So my character sheet has extra stuff, and I get all the little notes for the players to put down here. The first column here is used for spells, but I changed it to references. But again, you can add extra things in here. They could be dice rolls, they could be notes, it could be anything. You can go to skills. Oh, sorry, to the next one here. You click on this, and this is notes. So this is when the guys want to create notes. What I do as a player, or as a GM, I got it set up so these notes are automatically here. And when they click on it, it brings you to your action table, and they can click on it if they want to see what the free speak is. There's a free action speak, and you can see all the different actions, and they can click on this for their own reference at any time. So you're not looking through large menus. It's fairly close to it and easy access. Over here on the talents page, this one here, this is where I keep track of my talents or any special abilities of the character. Again, these were just the pre-gens, so I went and put the pre-gens in here. But I can put all that here, but if you click on this one, this goes to images, and I got the Doom Pit put here. And you can only put images in this particular second page on this column here, or in this field. Anyway, so the characters want to see what's in the Doom Pit or in the Doom Pile. They can click on this, and bam, it comes up. So everyone has very quick access of reference to the Doom Pile. So yeah, so like again, when they get their weapons or whatever, I'll type in up here. I'll type in the data, and then I'll just add 7d6, 2d6, and again, all you gotta do is click on it, bring it over, right-click to add extra dice if you're spending bennies or doom or momentum to add extra dice, and you can roll it, and then all you gotta do is count your numbers. Obviously, that is 4 points of damage there. And it can say it's mental stun and reach is close. The last thing I guess I'll really show you is people were asking how they manage the zones. Now, I find the zones work great on the table, but on the digital side here is a little bit more difficult. But I realize it's a relatively simple fix, and zones work perfect for, they really work well for hexes. I find that it works really good. So what I've done, I've started using maps now, and I've been putting on, like the overlay I've been using has been hexes. This is one of the images I used in my game from FG days just a few days ago. So what I've got done here, I got the zone set up in 0.5 increments, and I know the Conan rules, your set is not supposed to be tactical. It's not about miniatures, and I understand that. It's supposed to be fluid, more theater of the mind, and again, that works really well on the table. I find it doesn't work so well on a virtual table, and it's kind of a little bit different. But what I've done here, if you set up for hexes, I'll tell anyone for close to move anywhere in a close zone. You can just move one hex. So if they wanted to count their ranges, you know, this tells me this in your second zone, your third zone, and your fourth zone. Right? So if you want to move your 3 zones, you can move that many hexes. As long as it doesn't go, 3 to 3.5. Now, what I've also considered is I can change these hexes. Now, if you want to do it like zones, like you would on the more the way it's meant to, you can go in and change your grid sizes. And you can make the grids bigger. Now, I got the snaps turned on, so everything moves towards the middle. But what you can do is you can use your hexes. You can make big hexes, and you can say close is anywhere within this hex. Now, let me turn that snap off there. Where's it to? Snap the grid off. So what you can do is that anyone in this one zone, if they want to move over here, that's your move within a close zone, right? And if they want to move like 1 zone, 2 zones, that really works really well for your different, more along the rules of the game itself. And obviously each of these lines you can use, this is where you could be hindering or difficult terrain or whatever. So it's just something that you can keep in mind. I like using the smaller zones, but again, if you use the bigger zones, you can, it's just another way of doing it. That's all that is. Now, one of the things that I'm just wondering here, it measures exactly from the point of where you measured it. So let me say, to that tree there, from this point is 1 zone. But if I'm back here and go to pull the line up here, is 1.5 zones. So it's measured based on the width of the hex. That's the only thing you gotta keep in mind, though. Because technically, a hex is a zone. So if you're in that hex, it shouldn't be measured specifically from a point. It should be from the center of the hex to the next hex. But that's just something to keep in mind. Again, there's lots of different ways of handling that particular thing. But where I got big hexes like that, you can take the other icons and put them into the zone. Right? So here, they're within close zones. So if you wanted to take a minor action, move adjacent to him, and then attack, well, there you go. It works out well. I just find doing it with smaller hexes is just a lot easier to handle. Oh, I hope that helped. I'm going to be releasing this for download very shortly. But when I do have it ready, there's a couple of small changes I just need to make to it. I'll have a default character sheet available, and I'm going to be having them all, you can go in, you don't have to worry about typing it in yourself. It'll all be there. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. If you got any questions at all, feel free to drop by my blog page or send me an email or whatever. You can get me at my blogspot, which is thejollygm.blogspot.ca. Anyway, guys, thank you very much, and I hope to be playing Conan 2D20 by Modifius with everyone here who's listened or whatever soon, because I think it's a great system and it's really well done, and it really fits the sword and sorcery themes that I've grown up with. Okay, guys, have a good evening. Thanks.